it's not that I hunt pretty much every way. I have food plots, I have bait piles, I have funnels, I have transition routes, I have early season areas and late season areas, and I hunt all season. But I am very much a pre-rut, post-rut hunter. I want to catch deer traveling. I want to figure out why and when they go from here to here, and beat them at their own game.
Right. You're listening to the Dirt School Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Johnson, and if you like hunting, fishing, country stories, and learning lessons from those who live their lives in rural America, you're going to love this podcast. Brought to you by Hunt Real Outdoors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dirt School Podcast. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We've got special guest Locke Wheeler on tonight. So, Locke, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. We tried this a little bit last week, and I had some things come up, some emergencies and whatnot from the pastoral side of things, and so I appreciate you coming back this week and allowing me the opportunity to be able to talk with you. So grateful for that.
Yeah, not a problem. I understand. Yeah, it happens to all of us. So not a problem. I'm glad to be here and glad we can make it work.
Yeah. Well, why don't you take just a few minutes? I always like to do this, but take just a few minutes and kind of let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Locke Wheeler. I'm in Louisiana. I was born and raised in Mississippi, and I live right near the state line, still close to my hometown, but in Louisiana. And I'm the owner of Louisiana Bowhunter and the host of the Louisiana Bowhunter podcast. And I'm also the director of Eastern Operations for Scree Performance Hunting Apparel and Hunting Gear, if you've heard of us. And so, I've been in this space, being the outdoor industry, in different capacities for, probably getting close to 15 years now. So, yeah, it's kind of been around in pretty much every aspect of it, and just enjoy it, love talking about it, and always a pleasure to join a podcast like this and share hunting stories and talk it up.
Yeah, man, that's good. You said that about being Louisiana. Obviously, I'm from Louisiana as well. So tell me around what area are you at in
Yeah.
Louisiana and what part of Mississippi and all that?
Well,
Yeah.
I live in East Feliciana Parish, Louisiana, which is Clinton, Louisiana. And for people who aren't real familiar with the state, basically I'm 30 miles north of Baton Rouge. Yeah, I'm actually like almost exactly 30 miles north of the Baton Rouge Airport, which is on the north side of town. So, I tell people all the time, when you look at the map, people that don't know the South and don't know our state and our neighbors, when you look at the little 90-degree corner turn in southwest Mississippi, I'm right below the state line in that, kind of in the middle of that hook, right along the Mississippi River, and right there. But I was born and raised in Natchez, which is just on the north side in that same little crook, about 50 or so miles north of where I'm at now, Adams County, Natchez, Mississippi. And it's one of those things where being born and raised in this part of the world, and in my generation and my age, not to date myself, but I kind of came up as a kid in the days of Mossy Oak and Primos and Real Tree Monster Bucks. And um Mossy Oak and Primos had a lot of stake in my hometown. Ronnie Cuss Strickland lived a few doors down from us, and his daughters. I grew up with his daughters, and so I watched kind of the evolution of outdoor media and stuff like that kind of grow up right there in my backyard, and in some ways kind of idolizing all of that I saw on what back then. I'm sure you probably remember back then you had to wait for the DVDs or VHS tapes to come out once a year, leading up to hunting season, and so I was always drawn to it. And then as an adult, I found my way into the industry, and so I get to travel and go a lot of places, but I still make my home right here in the deep South.
Yeah, I definitely remember those days of waiting to go to Walmart to get the VHS tapes or the DVDs when it came out of Realtree and all that stuff, Primos, and still love to watch that stuff to this day, and certainly remember A lot of those days back in the early days per se, which I'm 51. I don't know how old you are, but that's how
I'm
old I
40.
am.
I'm 44.
Okay, all
So
right. So I
yeah.
got you a little bit in some age. Well, I will say this. I live in Bastrop, and so we have
Yeah.
the largest outdoor store in Louisiana in Bastrop, which is Simmons Sporting Goods.
Oh yeah.
And when you walk in Simmons Sporting Goods for the longest time, um, I don't even hardly focus on any of that stuff now because I'm in there like 3 times a week going to eat, but with some buddies. But you would see that Louisiana Bowhunter hats and stuff all in there, little racks all over the place. So I've been familiar with Louisiana Bowhunter from that perspective, but if you would explain to me how you got involved in owning the Louisiana Bowhunter, or were you the one that started Louisiana Bowhunter? I
Okay.
don't know. I'd love to hear that story.
Well, yeah. So I'm not the original founder of the brand. A guy that I was friends with even back before I had any affiliation, named Justin Lanclow, uh, began Louisiana Bowhunter as a lifestyle brand, or back in those days, and that was 2015. Back in those days, things really weren't the way they are now in terms of social media and internet and stuff. So it was a lifestyle brand as we know it today, in especially in hunting. But I mean, you have them in sports and other industries as well. But lifestyle brands were different, and so I don't know that Justin knew exactly that that's what he was trying to do, but he had a message board and he had some things, and he was just kind of put together a logo and was like, "Let me build this thing that people can connect to."
Yeah.
And what we call that now is a lifestyle brand, right? But uh, Justin had a partner come along early on, and some years after that, that partner ended up buying him out and bringing me in as an owner, as a minority owner with him, and he and I ran it for several years, and then I bought him out 3 years ago with two friends of mine came in and they helped me run it as partial owners as well. So that's kind of the ownership history of Louisiana Bowhunter. And but the kind of the cool thing about it is, there was this period of time from when Justin first created Louisiana Bowhunter to what it is today, and there was a period of time in all of that where these lifestyle brands that I've mentioned a couple of times that had really kind of became a thing. And so Louisiana Bowhunter kind of evolved through all of that into what it is today, but it's really not different in terms of uh, what it is at its core. It's never really changed. It's a community. It's a brand, but it's meant to be almost like a virtual hunting camp, a community of people that identify as a person from or with roots in Louisiana, hunts in Louisiana, lives there. That's a bow hunter that loves archery and loves bow hunting, and it brings a community and we've gone through all the different things of websites and social media pages, and going all the way back to way back when it was message board pages,
Right.
you know, and it's all been intended to bring people together under a common bond, and kind of create a virtual community, virtual hunting camp.
Yeah.
And so now that's kind of evolved into a podcast and a social media presence that forward fronts the brand along with the website and all that kind of stuff. And then we use a Facebook community group that's private and membership only, to kind of create that community where people can come together and we can keep that cleaned up where it's not a bunch of spam and junk. And it's free, but you have to request membership and we have to be able to vet you and make sure you're not, a spammer or something like that. So outside of that, we present a podcast, we offer this community presence around the brand, and we offer merchandise for people who like to support the brand and stuff like that. But it's all intended to just, promote and create a virtual community around bow hunting in this state.
Connecting people. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken in doing some research and just really just seeing it on social media and just like you're talking about, it's just out there. I mean, I've got guys that hunt up here in my church and different things, and they'll kill something, we'll post something, and they'll hashtag Louisiana Bowhunter. I mean, it's just, it's like
Yeah.
you said, it's like a family, like a community, and you're proud of being a Louisiana Bowhunter. But you guys do like explain to me the hunting league that you guys do. Explain that to me,
Yeah.
because that's
So that
community in and of itself.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was the whole, really, that was the guts of that idea, honestly, was how do we engage more? Like, we've created a community from a standpoint of there's thousands of people around this state that listen to our podcast, they wear our merchandise, they contribute to, things that we do publicly and things like that. But how do we further engage? And so we came up with the Hunt League last year, and you see different hunting competitions, league style competitions around the internet every year, and some of them are very lucrative in terms of what they offer. Some of them are regional, some of them are very broad, blah, 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 blah. And we thought, well, why don't we do something like that that is really kind of built and tailored to our audience? And it was really just something that we thought, well, I mean, the brand has enough respect and pull. We can get some people to pitch in some stuff to give away pretty cool prize package, and it'll give us a kind of a segment on the podcast every week to kind of touch on and give us a way to feature uh, people that have killed big bucks in the state and maybe tell their stories and just all that different levels of engagement. And we could sit here and brainstorm and add probably even, you would even help me come up with more ideas that we haven't even thought of that this could do. But that was it. It was like, we can do so much with this, and it doesn't need to cost anything. We just want to engage people.
yeah,
Right. And so we started it last year, not knowing what to expect. The three of us, my two partners, Levi and Colin, and some friends of ours that are kind of common characters you'll hear on the podcast, Brian Chamberlain and Michael Pepper and Harmon Carson and some other guys like that who've been around. We talked with lots of people and we brainstormed and we really put together this rules list that we thought really fit the Louisiana Bowhunter brand and style in our community. And we just kind of threw it out there, and man, we were blown away at the number of people. I think we had 68 or 70 registrations into the league in the first year, with really just kind of put it together like, hey, we got about a month before this thing's got to go. So we didn't even really promote it that much. We just, and it went great, and so we, this year we've learned a little bit from the first year. We've made a few little tweaks and adjustments to a few things, but it's still mostly the same. And our registration went up again this year, and I think we're 90 something teams this year. And like I said, it's really a way for us to engage regularly,
yeah,
weekly, following along with this hunt league. Like, how many people are killing deer? Are big bucks coming in from out of state? Different things like that. And it gives us stories to tell. It gives us a way to share and interact with community members on kind of a different level. And so it's no cost to enter, just, some basic guidelines and deadlines for getting signed up and how to submit your kills. And, yeah, I mean, we've grown it to where it's a pretty decent prize package. I mean, it's several $1,000s worth of stuff that you'll get if you win. And, but it's free to enter, and we don't take ourselves that seriously, man. Like
right, right,
we're gonna get an official score on the top entrance just to make it fair. I mean, but we're not nitpicking. We're
right.
not out there questioning people's score. We can look at a picture and tell, that might be 3 or 4 more inches than it actually is. But like, it's for fun. It's
Yeah,
for fun and for bringing people together. It's
yeah,
it's, it's not, so we try to keep it like that.
yeah.
And
Well,
that's really what it is. You touched on it very well. Just an engagement.
yeah, well, and I mean, I was thinking about that while you were talking and explaining it, that there's a lot of people that are doing similar things like that, that you've just taken it to a broader context. And what I mean is, like, for example, some guys in our church, this year, we put together like a little competition between us, is like, all right, whoever kills the biggest deer, it has to be Louisiana, Mississippi, or Arkansas. It can't come from the Midwest or something like that, which is completely unfair to me because I go to the Midwest. But it was like it has to be Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and you win a steak dinner, whoever has the biggest deer. So the camaraderie behind that, especially for some of our guys, we got one guy in our group, and he's never really killed a bunch of big deer or anything, and he just killed a nice public land buck this past week, and that dude is so excited. Now he's not in first place, he's in second place, but he is pumped up about it. But all it does is creates that camaraderie, like you're talking about.
And I
Like a
haven't.
virtual hunting camp.
That's what we call a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, from the good to the bad, to the controversial and the arguments and stuff. We call it that. And I hope I haven't heard a lot of this, but I hope that people are using our hunt league and have a little bit of that camaraderie and friendly competition going on. If our hunt league for in-state entries is a two-person team.
Right.
And so, I hope, two buddies join and two buddies join and they, hunt in the same, live in the same town. Maybe it does create, a camaraderie and a community outside of just our league, but even amongst smaller groups of friends that are all participating in the league.
Right.
And so, yeah, it does. And it creates the virtual hunting camp or the virtual campfire, camp porch, or whatever you want to call it. And like I said, and that, that goes from the good to the bad. I mean, we have had issues. I say issues, but we've had, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but we've had an instance or two where somebody's messaged us and said, why don't you moderate this or stop all that arguing or whatever. And it's like, there's a level you get to where you have to moderate, right?
Right.
You can't let people get out of hand with anything. But one of the questions that I pose to somebody in this kind of conversation as it pertains to a community like that is like, if 8 or 9 guys were all sitting around a camp with a football game playing and a jambalaya cooking, how much arguing and debating about cull bucks or fixed blade versus expandable broadheads or mobile hunting versus this, or how many debates and arguments and fusses and bickering, and then how much trash talk
Right.
would happen, right? That's what this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, don't read it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we should be able to debate that stuff and be all right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
and it's guys. It's just a virtual hunting camp.
Sure,
So
sure.
really, I look at it. You ask about Louisiana Bowhunter, and we talk about it like that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a big, broad, reaching virtual hunting camp.
Yeah. Now, do you ever see it? I mean, like expanding things to where like maybe you guys have this already, but like expanding it to video productions and things like that of the videos and hunting videos and all that kind of stuff, or do you already do some of that already? I mean, I know you've been on hunting videos, but do you have a Louisiana Bowhunter hunting videos? Because I know like I know you have Harmon, you said. I don't know him personally, but I know people who do, and some pastor friends that do, and I'll watch things whenever he puts it out because he hunts with a trad bow and I hunt with a trad bow, so that it's very interesting to me, and I'd love to talk to him one day too. But do you guys do that, or you do plan on doing that, or do you just kind of let people do their own thing and no plans of doing that? Just curious.
So yeah, that's no. I mean, that's a question that can go in a lot of different directions. So
Right.
I'll take it. I'll peel it like an onion.
Yeah.
First of all, so one thing, we did a video competition a couple years ago, and we gave away a pretty good prize, but we didn't get a lot of submissions. Honestly, it didn't. And the idea behind that was to offer an engagement sort of thing with the community for all those people who do video their hunts, and to give away some nice prizes and make it worth the engagement, but also to gather more content to expand the Louisiana Bowhunter. Have at the video contest kind of be hosted on our YouTube channel and that sort of thing. Well, it really didn't go as well as we had hoped. And we did have the guy who won it submitted a really good video and told a really good story. We did a podcast episode about that, and and it was great, but I was really hoping it would, get more entries than it did. The other, so that was kind of a false start into an attempt to expand video, part of the company. We do have a YouTube channel. We've done some more stuff. We've talked about doing more video content. Another layer of this onion, since we're staying with the analogy, I guess,
Sure.
is Colin and I both do this for a living.
Right.
We both are. I mean, I have my career has kind of changed and woven, and I'm in an executive role that involves a lot more things with screen now. But I came up in this industry as a videographer and a content creator, and that's what Colin does full time with Major League Fishing. He works for me with Scree some and other. He's more of a freelance videographer. So it's what we do, and so there's always kind of a weird transition between all of that we already have going on and doing even more of it along with running the company and everything. And then, it I don't really know, and I'm not being vague for any particular reason. I'm not going to tell you no that it won't happen. I'm not going to say no that we haven't talked about it, but I also don't really know that there's any really working plans outside of we do know that there's a need and we would like to offer more video content through Louisiana Bowhunter. But I don't think our goals have ever been for Louisiana Bowhunter to be um, a television show or digital production of some kind. It's not us. We
Right.
don't want to be like Louisiana Bowhunter is you.
Yeah.
Louisiana Bowhunter is anybody who
Yeah.
who who uh you know feels connected to the brand and what it stands for and identifies that way. You used the word identify earlier. That's a good word we use as well. So, yeah, I would like to think if we ever did more video stuff, obviously we have the ability to do it, given the manpower that we have and the experience that we have doing that kind of stuff. We have the ability to do it at a very high level, but following kind of the tradition of the brand, I would like to see it be more Louisiana content and
Right.
not these guys are Louisiana Bowhunter, and here is their show. Here is
Right.
their work. Here's their
Yeah.
content. I'd
Sure.
like it to look a lot more like what we tried to do when we did a video contest. It was like showcase a lot of hunters and bow hunters in Louisiana that use video to document their hunts, and not only make it a talent competition for how good you can put a video together, but also just kind of create more of what we want this brand to be. It's
Yeah.
everybody who identifies as Louisiana Bowhunter and not so much us
Right.
tagging ourselves to the name.
Sure. Yeah. 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 That's a good point. There's other brands, you could say it like that, like for example, I think about Lone Wolf. I think about like their YouTube channel. You can tell that when you go on their YouTube channel, obviously all the people that are on that YouTube channel, they buy Lone Wolf, they hunt with Lone Wolf, but you can also tell they all video their own stuff and edit their own stuff. They just put it on the Whitetail Addictions YouTube channel, which is the
Hmm.
Lone Wolf YouTube channel, for their videos. And so some kind of model like that to where you're not having to do all of the editing, you're not having to do all of the such and such, but everybody meets that criteria of
Yeah.
they have to be vetted by you and things of that nature, but they're putting that Louisiana content out there in a great way representing Louisiana Bowhunter, but you're not having to do the work of all the editing, but you also are able to monitor all the editing to the degree that you have to
Yeah.
submit the video and we got to make sure it looks decent. you
Yeah,
know
and I mean, I'd like to add on to that and just say that in my mind, it's not even it's not really about the work,
yeah, yeah,
about managing the work ourselves of the editing and production. It's more about not really wanting to take the brand in a direction that
yeah,
showcased
yeah,
us as this series of content or
yeah,
TV
yeah,
show or whatever you would call a
yeah,
digital series or
yeah,
anything, and finding a way to make it more fit the brand's overall mantra of what it is, and,
sure,
and like lots of different personalities and people hunting in different ways, and our state is so diverse, right? I mean, we're one of the more diverse states in the country in terms of, you can hunt in hills and hollows and pines and crop fields and swamps and coastal marsh all in a 4 hour drive,
Right.
Um, and so, showcasing all that and
Yeah.
making it all Louisiana Bowhunter is really what it's all about. So I hope we can find a way to do that. And we certainly want to kind of work towards more video content.
Sure.
I don't know what it looks like
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
at this
And
at this point in time.
yeah, there's some fine lines there, I guess, of how to merge that to still accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
definitely see that. Be, but on the flip side of that, you have some people, for example, like, well, of course, I mean, I got my meat eater hat on right here, but you have like meat eater and all that. But then, like Stephen Ranella's brother, Matt Ranella, I don't know if you know, heard him,
Mhm.
but
No,
well, he's
yeah,
very anti all the social
media.
media, all the he's anti hunting industry. He's not anti hunting.
Yeah.
Matter of
Mhm.
fact, his handle I think is like um, hunt silent or hunt quiet or something like that. Just like you don't have to advertise it, just hunt.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, you got people that feel like that, which would rather you not create content at all. So
That's just a I know exact. I've listened to a lot of that
yeah,
talk.
yeah,
And I've heard Matt Rinella on podcast himself
yeah,
talking about his feelings of those sort of things. And I find myself kind of stuck in the middle of all of that because on the one hand, on some level, just very personal uh kind of level, I get it.
yeah,
It's as hunters, part of hunting is supposed to be a connection of sorts, right? For us to get away from the hustle and bustle and stress of everyday life and reconnect with God's creation and who we are in the whole pecking order of things, going out and hunting for our food and kind of fulfilling that primal instinct that we were given at the
yeah,
top of the food chain by the all powerful, right?
right,
By the omniscient. And so there's a connectivity to that, but then there's also a side of it that I come from as a business owner and as an employee in this industry that realizes that we all feed our families and pay our bills because people love hunting. And if
right,
we don't put it out there, we can't sell products without advertising and promoting them and making people aware of them. And yes, marketing to them, which sometimes feels a little bit like tricking people, but it's not. You're making the decision to buy the item. If I impress you with the way I hunt on camera and it makes you want to use the gear I'm using, that's marketing.
you
But
did your job.
I did my job,
Right,
and you know, but that's turned into with the power of the internet. It's turned into so much more than just that. And people who really, especially people who depend on public land,
right,
for how they choose to hunt and how they want to hunt or where they live and stuff like that. I understand the encroachment of how it's grown. It's like, well, this is making nothing is private anymore. And even things that are private are gone way up in price. They're very exclusive in many cases, hard to gain access to. And the power of the internet and the growth and popularity of hunting as it's presented on video and on the internet, that is a big part of that. And so it's just a very sticky, complicated thing that, I can see both sides of it. And I'm squarely a fence sitter in this where I mean, I get it. I get it both ways, but um, I don't, it's one of those things that I'm glad I'm not tasked with figuring that out because
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
And well, that'll be I think that'll be a debate that'll continue to go on for long, probably long after we're gone, as long as we're able to hunt and internet exists and social media exists. We'll be fighting that battle for a long time. And
Yeah.
I do know one of the big sticky issues with that was it recruits more people for public land, which makes it harder
Oh,
to hunt
it
on public
does.
land.
It recruits more people. It gets more people. Um, and that I mean, for lack of a more in depth, detailed way to put it, you're taking up more space. There's only so
Right.
much space,
Yeah.
you know, period. No matter how you look at it, at some point when you boil it down, it's a certain amount of people trying to take advantage of a certain amount of space. And so you can't add more space. You can only add more people. And
Right.
so however you want to go from there, therein lies your problem. Um, but at the same time, um, for every negative, there's a positive about
Right.
bringing somebody into hunting. About well, people like me who have dreamed and prayed and tried really hard my whole life to do what I want to do for a living, and have been blessed enough to do that and raise a family doing it. And so it's hard for me to begrudge it very much, right? I
Right.
mean, um, I don't know. Like I said, I'm glad I'm not the person tasked with
Yeah.
figuring that
Yeah.
thing out, whatever
Yeah.
that is, because
Yeah.
I
That's
don't think
that.
I can
That's that
do.
fine line. It's fine lines in all of these things. Um. Well, let's get into some hunting situations and scenarios.
Yeah.
Are you a strictly 100% bow hunter, or do you ever pick up a rifle, or is it just bow only and that's it?
Yeah, it's bow only now. I don't. I turkey hunt with a shotgun.
Sure. Yeah.
I've killed them with a bow. The honest truth of that is, I just enjoy shotgun hunting for turkeys. I
Sure.
just do. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I find the bow hunting turkeys kind of anticlimactic. But yeah, as far as deer go and big game, the last time I hunted with a rifle, I think my oldest son, who's 17 or will be 17 next week, um, he was about 5 years old, and I was pretty much about 85-90% bow hunting only then. And I think that season I had bow hunted only, and it was towards the end of the year, and my little boy wanted to hunt so bad, and obviously I couldn't get up in a tree and bow hunt with a 5 year old, and I took him, and a buck came out that morning, and he was so excited, and I shot it with a rifle, and that was the last time, and so again, that was probably 12 years ago. He was about 5, and like I said, he'll be 17 next week. So it's been about 15 years since I shot anything with a rifle, and I haven't hunted with a rifle since then. So yeah, I am I am bow hunting only at this stage of
Well,
life.
give me a description of maybe like your favorite type of hunting. I mean, no, obviously with a bow, but I mean, like, what are the
Yeah.
methods you like to do as far as how you hunt, what you hold out for, what you don't hold out for, public, private. Give me that whole deal.
Yeah, I don't hunt a lot of public land these days. Not deer hunting especially. Um, I'm not against it, and I've actually been talking to some friends about some different ideas we have for doing some public land hunts in the future. So it's not that I'm really one way or the other on that. It's just that I typically hunt private, just my schedule and what I have available, and just what's been going on. But I've done a lot of both. And honestly, I am I'm not a trophy hunter, but my passion is to try to get a mature whitetail buck in bow range. It's a challenge. It's one of the hardest things to do on a consistent basis. And so as far as that goes, I look at myself as that, as just I like to hunt mature bucks with a bow and arrow. And I've been, I don't know if you say this is lucky or what. I've gotten to a stage in life where I don't even like the killing part that much. I like the chasing part a whole lot more, the strategizing and figuring it out. And as far as deer meat and stuff goes, I got two teenage boys, so I don't have to shoot does to get the
That's
doe
right.
ratio in check, or to fill the quota of doe harvest. I don't have to fool with that. I got two teenage boys that love to kill as many as I'll let them. And so that does really kind of dial my hunting down to, I'm after mature bucks, and I'm not, I'm like everybody else, man. If I go get in a tree stand in the morning, I hope the biggest deer around walks by me. I hope that,
Yeah.
but if it's a mature buck, 4 or 5 years old, depending on where I'm hunting, 4 or 5 years old or older, and he's a mature buck and he gives me an opportunity in bow range, I consider that a blessing every time it happens, and I don't turn down very many of them. So
Right. Yeah. 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 Well, that's good. I'm not. I'm kind of the same way to a degree, but I'm not going to say I'm strictly the 4.5. yet. I'm still like 1.5s and 2.5s are safe with me, and most 3.5s are safe with me depending on where I'm at. But if I'm
I'm
hunting like a
basically the same way.
yeah, if I'm on public or something, or a place like right around the road from my house where I know that if you kill a 3.5-year-old deer, you done something. So
Yeah.
it's like if a 3.5-year-old, that deer behind me over my this shoulder right here, I think it was a 3.5-year-old deer when I shot it last year, but I killed it down the road from my church, and I killed it with my recurve. So I was like, nah, that sucker's big
Oh
enough,
yeah, man.
son. You
Oh,
know?
and I'm pretty much
Yeah,
kind of on that same sliding
yeah,
scale. I've been fortunate enough to get to hunt in a lot of great places,
yeah.
especially over the last 10 years or so, where I've been able to be a little bit more patient and a little
Right.
bit more picky. But I totally get it, and I don't, I don't, I at least try not to get myself too far down any rabbit holes about all that because I don't begrudge anyone.
Sure.
Just be respectful of your neighbors and your friends and your hunting partners, and everybody be on the same page and have a good time enjoying it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Is kind of where I sit. Not, but I'm with you. I mean, it's all about where you're hunting, and
Yeah.
I tell people a lot of times, a deer that I might kill on my lease that's got 150 inches of antler and he's 5 years old. He's not any different of an animal than a deer that's 5 years old on your lease that maybe only grew 127 inches of antler.
Right.
Just like you might grow longer fingernails than I do,
Yeah.
or you might have a different hair type or
We got
some
the
different
same
teeth.
beard. We got the
Yeah, we
same
do have
beard, I
very
think.
similar beard, but we're all different. God made us all
Yeah.
different. Same thing for deer. So, when you're out there hunting and trying to outwit a mature whitetail buck, and when one gets to 3.5, and certainly once he gets to 4.5, he's a pretty smart dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some life experience, and if you can get one of those in bow range, whether he grew however many inches of antler or not is really not a measure of the hunt, and that's what I love. And then we talk about that on the Louisiana Bowhunter podcast a lot. One of the things we've kind of have our little sayings and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people that talk in the same groups a lot have that. Um, and we kind of categorize hunters in two areas, hunters and killers. And what we mean by that is your primary motivation. Is your primary motivation the hunt and everything that's entailed in the hunt, from the hot days of summer to the miserable, cold, dreary end of the season and everything in between? Or is your motivation, I just want to put my hands on that deer. I want
Yeah.
to kill a deer, and I want to have that deer,
Right.
whether that's a doe for the freezer or a buck for the wall or whatever.
Right.
But what's bigger than those two categories that you can is the big, humongous gray area in between
Yeah.
that the majority of people sit in. They got a little bit of both of it in them,
Yeah.
and they might lean a heavier shade of gray one way or the other. I find myself very hard on the hunt side in that I don't, care so much about killing them. I don't like the killing side of things as much these days, but I love the pursuit.
Yeah.
I love the strategy. I love figuring them out in different places, how different they are right here behind my house than they would be behind your house
Yeah.
or in a neighboring state or
Yeah.
somewhere totally different in the country. Figuring out how those deer use the landscape that they're in and outsmarting them and getting them in bow range and being able to take an ethical, lethal shot on a deer with a bow and arrow is an accomplishment, and that challenge is what drives me. And so, I would the other thing that I would say about like my style of hunting is I am very much a pursuit hunter. And what I mean by that is by using that word is it's not that I hunt pretty much every way. I have food plots, I have bait piles, I have funnels, I have transition routes, I have early season areas and late season areas, and I hunt all season. But I am very much a pre-rut, post-rut hunter. I want to catch deer traveling. I want to figure out why and when they go from here to here, and beat them at their own game.
Right.
I'm, again, that's just you asked me my hunting style, my preferences. I hunt mobile a lot because of that. Because if I go hunting in the morning, I'll get up and drink my coffee and I'll look at the weather and I'll look at my Onyx and I'll look at some camera data from the last few days and I'll try to figure out where I'm going to pick that buck up. I'm not going to go sit very often, or at least not this time of the year. I'm not going to go sit somewhere and just hope to ambush him coming to somewhere he wants to eat.
Yeah.
That's not my preferred style. Do I hunt that way? Absolutely. Early season, I hunt that way. I go hunting with you, and you put me on a food plot. I'm gonna hunt that food plot.
Yeah.
I don't have any qualms again. It's just my preferred style. What I dream about when I lay my head down at night and I dream about my next hunt is picking the right tree in the right transition or the right funnel or the right pinch. Or picking just the right scrape line for those weather conditions to catch that mature deer on his feet in the daylight, and I can ambush him, no, more or less, but in that way. That's how I love to hunt.
Sure. It's the outsmarting the smartest of the woods basically is what you're after. And I'll be honest with you, some of the best conversations that I've had since I've been doing the podcast are guys who that's their mentality. It's like the woodsmanship aspect of it. Like, I just want to figure out the lay of the land and how the deer's using that land, and I want to try to beat him at that, and recognizing how difficult that is to do.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then people who own land and who are trying to manage and manipulate their land to create, places where they can consistently do that with mature deer. Those guys are interesting guys to talk to,
I
man. But
agree, and I one of my goals is to one day, be fortunate enough to be a landowner that can, because
yeah,
I find all that extremely interesting. I mean, I have a lease here at my house that's 400 acres, and I'm able to do a lot of that. But we all know it's a lease; it
right.
could go away anytime. So yeah, I am with you. I'm very interested in those things like you're talking about, and that's kind of one of my goals is to have a place, that's big enough and that I can do that kind of stuff because I think it's right up my alley. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what I love the most about hunting. And I think um you know, I've been in baseball most of my life. I still coach high school baseball. And as a former player and coach and all at high levels, the competition and the grind of competition, especially in a sport like baseball where the seasons are long, and you play a lot of games. It's not football, which I love football, but football you play on Saturday and then you prepare for the next game, and you play for a period of the year where you play once a week, and every game is a really, really big deal. Well, in baseball, it's kind of a grind.
Hmm.
There's a lot of middle of the season games where that fourth or fifth inning strikeout doesn't seem like a whole lot if you're not in the guts of it in the middle of a season. And I compare that life, and I miss a lot of that. I mean, I still get to be involved, the blessings I've been bestowed on me in my life to be able to live in the life I want to live and be able to coach and stay in the game and still work in the hunting industry. I am still in the game, but like anybody you would probably talk to, I still miss that grind of being a player, and I compare a lot of that to hunting. Because I'm going through that a little bit right now, and we're having this conversation today, and it's very apropos in that I'm not having the greatest 2 or 3 year stretch right now.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, um, I went through a stretch there, man, from like 2016 until about 2022, where I don't think I could do anything wrong, man. We were pumping out some amazing, incredible videos. We were killing some big deer on camera. I was killing big deer whether I had a camera with me or not. And it was like everywhere I went, I was able to put the puzzle together. I was lucky, I was good, and I was everything all at the same time. It all just was working. And then 2023 hit, man. It's just been I've been a little bit on the struggle bus, and I remind myself of that now where I haven't I mean I killed a really nice elk with my bow last year. I killed a really beautiful velvet whitetail in Kentucky 2 years ago, and in between that I've lost a couple of deer and I've missed a couple of deer that I just hadn't done for years and years before that. And I'm reminded these days, like if I go get on the stand tomorrow, or hunts I've made recently in the last few days, it's like I'm in my head a little bit, and it reminds me of those times when I was in the game and I was playing, and it was like I'm never going to get out of this slump. I'm grinding it out, but I still go to work every day. And then when it all comes together, man, that feeling is like nothing else. And
Yeah.
that's why I hunt the way I do, and I don't really back down from it, because even though I'm going through kind of a rut, so to speak. Pardon the pun, I guess. But I'm kind of in a rut with my deer hunting. Um, I know that I've been doing this my whole life. I hunt the way I hunt. I've had a lot of success doing it. And when it all comes together, and hopefully it's tomorrow, but when it
Right.
does, I'm going to look back on the last couple of years of mistakes and struggles, and I'm going to appreciate that grind. Even when there's days where I'm ready, I'm fixing to get down and put my stuff away. I'm just wore out. I'm just
Yeah.
tired of this, tired of this battle. These deer won't cooperate, blah, blah, blah. The stuff we all go through, I'm sure, at times. The grind of it and all makes it so much more enjoyable than just kind of making hunting a random dartboard. I'm just throw a dartboard when I get a day. I'll go to that stand, and the deer happens to show up and eat from that feeder or on that food plot, and you get to kill him. Like that's great, and I've done a lot of that in my life. But the way that I love to hunt so much is the way we've talked about. Man, when it comes together like that, man, it is just it's
Yeah.
why we keep doing this because that feeling is that high.
Yeah.
That high that drug addicts chase. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Well,
think all of this plays into that, not
yeah.
just that deer on the ground.
Yeah. Last year was like that for me. I didn't get drawn for Kansas, and so I didn't go there to the Midwest last year. So I just hunted around here, and I made up my mind that I was only gonna hunt with my recurve, not my compound, just my recurve. So all last year I hunted with that recurve, and I grinded, I grinded. I hunted on the ground. I wanted to kill one on the ground with a recurve. I did all that stuff. I got busted. I got this and that. And then I killed that deer. I think it was the middle, maybe the end of December when I killed that deer. So I hunted all year with that
Mhm.
thing, and it was a struggle. And then when I put that thing down, and that was a 115-inch deer, and when I put that dude down, son, I could not have been more happy to
Yeah,
have done it. Like
yeah,
grind all year and have all these mess ups, all these little things that keep you from doing it, and then boom, it happened that day. You know?
yeah. It's amazing, man.
Yeah,
It's so much fun when it goes that way,
yeah,
and you can sit back and look at all the things that you've been doing, that you've done, that the mistakes you've made, the things you feel like you did right that for you cannot really identify why they didn't work, or at least have some better result than what they. And you look back at all of those, and then it's a big puzzle that comes together for you, kind of in your mind, and it's a feeling of satisfaction that goes way. And I know how exciting it is to just go sit down and have that stroke of luck where I picked the right spot on the right day, and I know how exciting that is. It's so much more exciting the other way,
yeah,
and I think that's what I find myself chasing as a hunter is
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I'll tell you a funny story that in relation to this that just happened the other day. And I haven't really even told anybody this story. I told my dad because he was at the camp. But I I have I mentioned I'm from Natchez, Mississippi, and so we still have property there and still have family there, and I hunt there a lot with different places with friends and our own family place. And I hadn't been to my family property at all this year until this weekend. My boys and I decided to go stay at the camp for the weekend with my dad for Thanksgiving. And I have one spot on our family place that I hunt a lot more than anywhere else, and I just like it. I've actually never killed a deer at it ever, ever, and I think we've owned it for 10 years, and I've never killed a deer there. My dad killed the biggest deer that we've killed on the property in that spot, but I've never killed a deer there, but it's still my favorite place to hunt, and we don't have a real big piece of property, so we get there on Thanksgiving Day, and we went and ate at my in-laws for lunch, and we got there for an afternoon hunt. My boys all decided what they were going to do, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to my spot.
yeah,
Wind's good. The wind's good for it. I hadn't been here at all this year. I have no idea. I'll just go there. And I climbed up in my saddle, and not long into my hunt, I saw a deer, and I got the binoculars on him, and I don't know for sure how big it was, but on from what I could see through the woods, 100, 125 yards away, it looked like a decent enough buck that I was going to want to shoot. And this dude comes in, and I'm just watching him, and I don't know if he's going to come my way or not. And I never could see him to tell you exactly what he was, but he looked like a nice buck, a
yeah,
buck plenty within, what I was looking for. And he starts rubbing a tree. And I'm like, okay, well, I had saw a few scrapes walking in that I'm like, okay, well, they're starting to act a little frisky here. Maybe we'll see a little something. And so he starts rubbing a tree. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if he's going to come over here, but if he keeps acting like that, I might could grunt at him a time or two and get him to come over here because he's all by himself as far as I can see. And so he continued on about his way, and then he turned around and he started rubbing another tree, and then he started really pawing the scrape out hard. And I said, "Oh yeah, buddy, I think I can get your attention. I don't know if you'll come in bow range, but I think I can get your attention. Wind's in my favor, and you're obviously in the mood, you know."
Right.
I'm using the nested tree stand system this year. I use it for saddle and for mobile lock on, and it's a really cool system. I encourage people to check it out. I'm not affiliated with Nested. I
Yeah.
just like
Right.
the way they're packed. They have a pack system that's really cool. It has like this open compartment in the top that they claim and so you hunt out of it, and it's really neat. You sit all your stuff in there, almost like a big tray of sorts.
Hmm.
Well, my grunt call's sitting in there, and I go reach for the grunt call, and for some reason I did something. I fumbled around and I dropped it,
Oh man.
and it hit the ground. And I thought, this is just right on par for how everything has been for the last couple of deer seasons. So I sat there and I watched him. I even entertained in that moment. I entertained the idea of, I wonder if I can grunt with my
With my
mouth and make it
mouth.
sound decent enough. Because I'm like, I'm watching this deer and I'm thinking if I turned my head and grunted a few times, I'm pretty sure he would at least close the distance. Like I can't say for sure I'd have got a shot at him, but his body language and what he was doing. I'm thinking I stand a chance with just a few simple grunts of getting this deer's attention and maybe getting him over here in bow range because he was only maybe 100 yards.
Yeah.
The grunt call hit the ground, and of course, everything goes through my head. I go through the idea, well, can I make a sound with my mouth that sounds good enough? Well, no, that's dumb. Stop thinking about that. And then I thought, well, you know what? Maybe this is just dumb luck. Maybe this is God's way of telling me, boy, you don't need to blow that grunt call right now. Like,
Right.
don't do that. You're gonna mess the hunt up. I'm just gonna, I thought about that, and then I'm like, of course, he made his scraping up the hill he went, and he never came my way. And I thought to myself, I don't know what this was, but I can't say for sure what this was. But what I can tell you for sure is this is exactly how my hunting's been going for the last 2 weeks. If it
One
can
hunt.
happen, it's been happening.
Yeah. One hunt descriptor of my whole season right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you
maybe
know,
that'll turn around tomorrow.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But I'm like everybody else, man. I get down about it and frustrated, and I ask myself all these dumb questions, and then, I look at the weather and it looks favorable, and I'm right back ready to go again. So
Right.
either
Right.
way, I'll enjoy myself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the way I am. There's times when I just get aggravated with it and I ain't going for a few days, and then about 2 days into that, I'm thinking, oh, I got to go out there. The wind's right, or I'm gonna go check this spot. Whatever. But
Yeah.
you mentioned something a little bit earlier, and just kind of backtrack a little bit. You said something about y'all were wanting to do some public land type get-togethers or something. You insinuated that. I had been thinking this past week that I would love to just get some like Louisiana guys who traditional bow hunt and like meet up on some public and like camp out for the week, the weekend, or for like a Friday and Thursday, Friday, Saturday or something. And I mean, obviously I can't do on Sunday. I got church, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, camping out and just hunting on public with recurves or traditional
Yeah.
stuff. I would love to do that. And I've thought about trying to
Yeah.
throw that out there and see if guys are interested in it, but
I've
I don't
heard of
know.
people doing that. Some friends of ours, me and a friend of mine drew Unit 6 Kansas tags this year. And Colin, who films me on a lot of stuff and is one of the co-owners of Louisiana Bowhunter, he came with us and we went with hunting on some private ground with some friends of ours in that area. But some other friends of ours, Louisiana Bowhunter guys that you would know their names, they kind of did. They rented an Airbnb and one of them had a lease in the area, and the rest of them they hunted public, a bunch of different public areas. And I've seen a lot of stuff, people I know and otherwise, where I find it really interesting when I see guys, going in and taking a week or 10 days or whatever and going somewhere they don't know and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, And I think honestly, that's probably, what when I mention that, I think that's probably what I would do. Is what's most interesting to me is, getting going with a group, and whether it's a camp setting or going in together and renting an Airbnb in an area near some public in another place that's totally different, and spending a couple of days really um, kind of hunting from the ground and learning and figuring it out and just putting yourself to the test in that way.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and part of that is going somewhere that you don't know.
That's
So
right.
I don't know. For the fellowship side of it, it would obviously be a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But from the hunting side of it, I mean, public ground here locally is going to be a lot like the private ground. It's the same kind of deer, the same kind of
Yeah.
geographies and stuff. And I think what draws me into it, and some of what kind of brought that on, is I killed my elk on public land.
Yeah.
And I did that hunt for 2 years, and I did it with a year break in between. And the first year I did it, we had a tough time. It was a tough hunt for a lot of reasons. Not just we actually came close to killing an elk, but we had a lot of camp issues, and we had a lot of packing in, packing out issues, and it was tough. And then the second time I did it, everything really lined up and went much better. The hunting was better. I killed an elk. Um, but it was kind of the same thing. It was I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know what this is about. I've never seen anything like this where I'm
Yeah.
at,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm hunting an animal that I've never hunted before. And so that I learned a little bit about doing some of this that way. Um, and I'm interested to see, if I did go to a Midwestern state somewhere where I know how to hunt those areas, that kind of land and that kind of hunting, because I've hunted most of those states on private ground. I'm interested to see if I could go in and find, if I kind of find, I guess, find what I'm looking for, and
Sure.
hone in on something. And
Yeah.
I see a lot of people documenting those kind of hunts and things,
Well,
and I find it
the
fascinating.
the tethered guys, they're the tethered tour or whatever they call it. The last 2 years, they've done that. They it's 6 or 7 guys, and they go into public ground, somewhere they haven't been, and they might, it'll probably be like 8 episodes or something. Basically they spend a week and they just document that week's hunt, and the successes, the misses, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the thing that interests me about that is with the different landscape is, here where I'm at in North Louisiana, just north of Monroe, it's flat. Everything's flat. But talking to these hill country guys, man, like mountain guys, and I've done some podcasts with some guys that are like Virginia and all that kind of stuff. Dude, it is so them dudes are so good at woodsmanship. It is unbelievable the tricks that they got about deer and how they move in hills and mountains. And you're like, I never heard that before in my life. Or you're like, one of them was explaining some stuff about thermals and how that works, and just I'm talking about deep nuances of that stuff. And I was thinking back to whenever I was on a club in Vicksburg, Mississippi, north of Vicksburg, and it wasn't in the Delta side, it was on the hill side. And
Mountains
yeah,
almost.
yeah, yes, yes. And he was telling them stories and just giving these things that he does in these mountains, and explaining why the deer were doing what they were doing. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, that good place that I used to kill all them bucks at over in Mississippi, that's exactly what he's describing. And I had no idea that's why them deer were always in there. But he's explaining exactly what was happening. And I
Oh
had
yeah,
no idea. I just knew, hey, I found a good spot and I'm killing deer in there. But I didn't know why, and
yeah.
he's explaining it. So
I've,
it's,
I've found that parallel because growing up, and I just mentioned the hunt I was just talking about was kind of the same thing. I mean, I grew up in Natchez, but our stuff's north of Natchez, which is south of Vicksburg, and the Mississippi bluff country right off of the Delta is, when you talk about hills and thermals and that stuff as it pertains to deer hunting, I think that parallels a lot of what they do in North Alabama, North Georgia, and
yeah,
Virginia, and Appalachia, and all. It's very similar because you have the elevation and
yep,
the wind swirl and the thermal dynamics in those hills. I mean, I have that in our home. Our home ground is that way because it's a mile from the Mississippi River Delta. Um, And yeah, it is. It's and I would be interested. I'm just kind of saying I'd be interested to see how that all played out in places that are not the same but very similar. And you should expect maybe deer movement and deer activity, and certainly the way you would use your woodsmanship in those terrains to be very similar to back home. And I've thought
Yeah.
that a lot too about the big bluff country
Oh
hills and
yeah,
hollows
yeah.
we have in the
Well,
South.
he was explaining how, like if you got a light wind blowing over this ridge, and then in the mornings you got the thermals coming up, you kind of got it like this. And he says what you're going to notice is that deer is going to walk halfway down that ridge because he's getting the best of both worlds. He can smell from
Hmm.
underneath and he can smell from over the top. And so all he's got to do is walk in that middle, the side of that ridge, and he's got the whole thing covered. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, that is why them deer were walking the side of that ridge. I mean, it was crazy how much stuff he described
Yeah.
that I saw and didn't know what I was seeing. You know?
Yeah, well, and it is interesting, and I when I hear stuff like that, and I read about it and see it on different things, what comes to me is the hours spent observing
Yeah.
to figure all that out. And have you heard of Warren Womack?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Mr. Warren's my neighbor.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, we share mailbox space.
Wow.
Um, and a good friend. And I'm sure anybody that's listened to Mr. Warren on any podcast and stuff like that, knows one of his things is the documentation that he's done of his hunts for his whole life. And it reminds me of that. To figure that out, something like the example you gave about the morning thermals and the wind direction and and the slope of the hill and all that. Like to figure that out there's a lot that went into that.
Sure is.
That's kind of something, and Mr. Warren, is a wealth of knowledge from that because it's not just like his opinion of what he thinks he saw. It's like his opinion based off documented record of how this has transpired in this way so many times over the
Right.
years. And so anytime you hear somebody that's got that, it's not just their opinion. They can give you observed detail of how they've figured out some things that really are just it's really kind of amazing to me. And
Yeah.
that's what I think about when I hear that stuff all the time. It's like, man, somebody that's figured that out, think about the hours they've sat in the wrong spot and observed it and had to go through the process of elimination how many times before they finally figured out what piece they were missing.
Right.
Figured out
Yeah.
something like
Oh yeah, yeah, and I
that.
I also think that the rise of the mobile hunting has helped with the inquisitiveness of that because I think people are more apt to move now based on what they're seeing and not, well, that's my stand and the deer didn't come close, and so I'm gonna go back there again tomorrow and hope he comes close. Now they're more apt to say, oh, I got a saddle and some sticks, I'm going right over yonder, and
Yeah,
you start what you're seeing, you start adapting to quicker, and so therefore you become more successful.
exactly.
It seems
Definitely. I
like.
think I agree with you, and this is as honest as it could be because this comes from someone who has publicly been on both sides. You know, I've obviously been out there. My voice and all, and my opinions with podcasting has been out there for a while now. And there for a long time, I just couldn't understand the saddle hunting thing. I've always been a mobile hunter.
Yeah.
Before I really knew that I was a mobile hunter, I was just a hunter, and I just didn't realize that's what I was. I
Right.
grew up with an old man climbing stand on my back, and that's how I hunted
Yep.
all through college, and until I got old enough and had enough money to buy stands and hang them. My dad and I would have a few stands, and we climbed in climbing stands almost every hunt.
Right.
And the saddle thing came along, and for years, I just didn't get it. I would always be on the other like you don't need all that. It's just it's a quirk, it's a gimmick, it's a quirk, blah blah blah. Well, now I'm on the other side because I've got it and I use it and I use it a lot, and I don't use it because of any gadgety reason. I use it kind of the same way I did a climbing stand, just a lot more effectively and without as much hassle and trouble. And I can do a lot more versatile.
You're right.
And I think that's the part of the whole. You see a lot of debate about mobile hunting online and people that just assume it's just a marketing thing. It's a fad. It's a trend. And it is some of those things. It is for sure. I mean, there's plenty of guys out there, and I'm not begroaning this, or if that's even a word, but I'm not trying to be negative. But I'm sure there are plenty of guys who went and bought a saddle and hung in a tree right next to their ladder stand,
Right.
and because
Feel good
for
about
whatever
having a saddle.
whatever. I'm whatever. Do what you want to do. But for me, the part of the argument is that gets just looked past. That's too logical. Is exactly a scenario like you just like. I got 5 days of vacation time here, or I've got 1 week on this trip to this other place to hunt this place, and these deer keep passing over there, and I don't really like if I've got a saddle, I just get down and go over there.
That's right.
That's
Yep.
simple, you
Yep.
know. And like that's just it's very logical, and I agree with you. It's not just, I mean, obviously the biggest shining kind of example of the effectiveness is people killing deer, but
Right.
it's not even that. It's the you use the word adaptive, and I think it's a good word because how many times do you do that? I know I do this, but asking it, kind of asking the question in such a way of how many times do you do that, and maybe you don't kill the deer, but you confirm something that you suspected, which is why you made that move.
Right.
Like I really believe I need to be in that tree. I had a situation several years ago in northeast Kansas where I had a week to hunt, and I was hunting in this one finger, and I could see through the woods into this other finger of cut corn, and I was hunting at the end of these fingers, and whatnot, and I started seeing this really big deer coming out in this other finger through the woods with a doe, and I saw him like 3 days in a row, and he was big. I mean, to this day, probably the biggest deer I've ever seen on the hoof.
Yeah.
And through watching him through all this, we kind of came to the conclusion, and I think anybody would have that knew what they were looking at. This deer's bedding really close in the end of this finger, locked down with his doe. He's really close. If we go walk in there and try to move a stand into there, we're gonna
Right.
blow him out
Yeah.
because he kept popping out all the time throughout the day. It was very obvious that he was right there somewhere.
Right.
It's like our best option is to sit here because and hope he chases a doe over here or he gets loose from that doe or something. Because if we go over there, he's gone.
Right.
If I'd have had a saddle, things would have been different.
Yeah.
If I'd have had a saddle, I could have slipped in there and hunted that deer.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a way to drive in there and hang a ladder stand or something in the middle of the day. I mean, the deer
Sure.
was coming out in the middle of the day sometimes.
Yeah.
And he was bedded right there somewhere. And so, as an example, it's not a trend. That's not a fad. That's not me thinking the saddle makes me. But in that case, it would have made me a more effective hunter because I probably would have got an opportunity at that deer.
Sure.
And I wasn't hunting that way back then.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
that's how I view that. And I guess I look at it and go, I guess I've always been a mobile hunter. I just
Right.
use more innovative equipment that makes it easier.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
and I know that there are there are places where you can hang a lock on or a ladder stand or something and leave it there, like if it's a classic funnel or pinch point to where like, look, them deer been coming through there for years and they're gonna still come through there, and you have those normal permanent sets. I get it 100%. But just having that ability, whether it's even with a saddle or whether you're going with like, one of the little, .5 lone wolf stands or something, it's like 5 pounds or something, and it's you just taking off. It's just good to be able to. And I've watched hunts, man, with them guys. They'll be in mid hunt and go, them deer are right up there. I need to move 50 yards, and they'll just climb down with that saddle and move 50 yards and climb back
yeah,
up and be successful that day.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
I do what you're talking about, especially on my home properties,
sure.
because I have control over what's going on.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I have set stands in
Hmm.
traditional spots that I know when they're going to be good, and I
Hmm.
leave them alone, and I only hunt them on certain days in certain situations, certain weather.
Yep.
And there's not a better option than that spot where that stand is to hunt that spot.
Yeah.
But I would challenge anyone with any second guessing about this with the general concept of in the South where we live in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama. The way we hunt
Yeah.
mixed pine hardwoods. thick cover, everything, pressure. A big buck, and I'm not trying to dull your hunting down to only hunting big bucks, but
Sure.
for the sake of it, that's what we're all after. A big buck in our world, you and I both know very well that there's a very likelihood, and the older he gets, the smaller it gets.
Yeah.
That deer's only going to make a mistake in the daylight a handful of times a season.
That's correct.
Period.
Yep.
And if you're like the majority of people, you can't hunt every day.
Right.
So what if on a given season, the deer that you're after, or a couple of deer that you're after, it just doesn't line up in those set locations. The weather pattern's never right when you're available to hunt. Something happens. I mean, I had a situation here locally where a hurricane destroyed a bunch of woods and it changed the deer a lot.
Right.
For a year or two. And what if that happens? Being mobile solves that.
Correct.
Because those spots, they might not be any worse or better than they ever have been before. It just might not line up for your season on this year where, hey, that old reliable pinch point along that creek bottom just ain't worked out for me this year. The deer aren't, the acorn crop sucks in there this year.
That's right.
The deer aren't using it the way they have. And so not that he's not going to, but he might only do that once or twice, and it might not be a day that I can hunt. So I better be, have my thinking cap on and be thinking about how I can hunt these deer a little differently and better my odds because, we're having a baby this season, or, my nephew's getting married in the middle of the rut. I mean, I've had all these things happen to me.
Sure.
Sure. All these different things, and it just doesn't line up. And so you're left again throwing a dart at the dartboard every day before you go to the woods, just guessing.
Right.
And and that's fine, but for me, that's just that doesn't make me go. Like that. What I want to strategize. I want to plan. I want to sit up there, whether it's a 2-hour hunt or an all-day sit. I want to sit up there with a plan in mind, thinking, hey, I'm hunting a purpose. Now, if something happens outside of what I envisioned and I get an opportunity, I'm gonna say a prayer of thanks and I'm gonna be happy about it. But I want to feel like I'm hunting. I'm pursuing something. I'm not just hoping that I got lucky today.
Yeah.
That's what made it, and not that I don't hunt that way sometimes, but that's what keeps me going, man. That's
Yeah. Well, I know we got to go. We've been on here a while, but you got stuff to do. But I was thinking back to one of those guys I was having a conversation with. It was Dalton from the Stick Boys, and he was in I think it's North Carolina. And the mountain country though, whatever. But he was talking about. He said, "Man, I hear these guys sometimes talking about observation sits." He said, "I ain't going on no observation. When I go in there, I'm going to kill something." He said, "I'm going to set up with a plan, looking to kill something. I ain't going to just look."
I find I talk about observation sits a lot. Yeah. I believe in them, but it is. I've thought to myself too, like. It's kind of a funny terminology that we use.
Yeah.
We call it an observation sit. And I guess, in theory, in terms of our plan for that day or that hunt, it is. But every time I go on an observation sit, within a few minutes, I'm imagining, a deer could come from right there.
That's right. So
a deer could easily pop out right over there. Yeah. I'm watching something out here in front of me, and I think that's probably where I'm going to see deer. But one could just slip in right here to my left.
Oh yeah, I do the same thing.
Totally observation.
That's right. I do the same thing, man. I've said that and observation sit, and I've made them. I'm like, I'm just going to go in here and look and see what the deer doing at a distance, and then I'm going to make a move on them. That was my plan. And then he said that, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, I guess that's one way to look at it. He's like, I ain't going to look. I'm going in there to kill.
We could make a T-shirt that says "Observation Hunter" with a gun or with a bow.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not. I guess we shouldn't call it observation unless we leave our weapon in the truck.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
If all you take's your binoculars and the 2 eyes God gave you, then it's truly a observation set.
That's exactly right. Another thing he had made mention of too, he was talking about cameras. And he was talking about, he said, I don't have anything against cameras. I got cameras. I run cameras. He said, but son, he said, sometimes, he said, you got to be the camera. He said, when you see fresh sign and hot sign, he said, you ain't got time to set a camera up on it and wait and see what's happening, because them acorns may be gone in a couple of days. You got to be the camera. You got to set up close enough to shoot that deer.
Let me tell you a story that just happened to me, and I know this has happened in this podcast a couple times, but It's all true. I didn't make it up.
It is what it is.
What you said is absolutely true. Let me tell you a story. It was Wednesday. No. Mm-hmm. Nope. It was Thanksgiving Day. It was Thanksgiving Day, and I hunted behind my house, and I walked down a road, and I dropped off in a big bottom, and I got on a transition between about a 7, 8 year old pine thicket and some real thick hardwoods with a lot of that hurricane damage in them. And when I walked in there that morning, I saw a couple of fresh scrapes on that road. Well, I walked on past them about 200 or 300 yards down and got down in that bottom. And I saw a small buck that morning. And my neighbor on the far other side of the property shot a buck and it ran over on my place. And so while I was hunting, he had called me and said, hey, I shot a buck. I don't want to go on your place. I'm going to get a dog to track it. And I don't want to go on your place without your permission, and I certainly didn't want to come mess up one of your hunts or whatever. So I said, all right, well, look, we're going to Thanksgiving middle of the day, so when I get down here in just a little bit, I'll come up there to your house, and we'll go in there and look for your deer. So, of course, I was, excited to see what he shot and wanted to, kind of get this all going because we had Thanksgiving and all. And so I cut my hunt short about 30 minutes. And I got down in my golf cart. I had a camera in my golf cart that I had taken down, and I had been planning to move. And I had been thinking all morning, when I leave here, I'm going to stop and put that camera on one of them scrapes and just see. Because I wasn't expecting to see scrapes here yet this early. And that kind of surprised me. Well, in the daylight, when I came out, I found that there was a really couple really good feed trees right there, and this is an old firebreak road that really separates the pines from the hardwood bottoms that they don't cut. And these deer are working this old firebreak road, that transition line. And what I also found that I didn't really realize in the dark, because I was just walking and just saw them. I didn't even look at my map where I was at when I saw them. I was just walking in the dark. I also realized that I was just straight across the bottom from one of our food plots that has a feeder that runs year round. Mm-hmm. We don't have a stand on it, but it's a kind of a central area that we just feed the deer there.
Yeah.
And so I kind of walking out, I'm putting all this together, like you said, the hot, fresh sign. Like, yeah. I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, these scrapes have been checked since I've been in the tree. 1. 2, these acorns have been getting fed on in the last couple of days. And 3, I realize I ain't but about 150 yards from that food plot and that feeder right over there. And I didn't realize that in the dark. So, well, this is definitely where I'm going to stick this camera, and then I got to go help this guy. I stuck the camera on the tree, got in my golf cart, drove to the other. It was 15 minutes. I had a picture of a super nice buck. 15 minutes after I drove off on that camera, checking that scrape. So the next day, I came in there and threw a lock on up on that road, and I've gotten a few more pictures, but it started to die off. Like, they haven't checked those scrapes in 2 or 3 days, and I'm like,
yeah.
Now, granted, I was going to Thanksgiving and I was going to help the neighbor, and I couldn't. But the point that you made is what I needed to do was go. This is where I need to be. I need to get in that tree right there, right now. That's what I need to do. And if I had, I'd have killed a nice deer. Not that I had the ability, but to your point, that's it.
Yeah. When he said it, I immediately did what you did. I said, man, I got a story. I said I saw a 10-point the other day. And I looked and I saw it was it was a big pin oak tree, and it was dropping acorns, son, and they was eating them, and it had 4 scrapes under it. And I was like, I said, you know what? I'm going to back up about 50 yards from this tree, and I'm going to see what these deer are doing. That's what he said. That's what I said to myself. And sure enough, that very evening that I found it, I set up 50 yards away from it. And I said, what? And I did what you said a while ago. I said, well, a deer comes out, he feeds right there, checks some scrapes, he'd come through these woods maybe, and I get a shot at him. Well, he comes out, it was a doe, a spike, and a 10-point. Nice 10-point. Came out, they all fed right there under the trees, checked the scrapes, and I'm sitting there watching them, no shot, because I'm 50 yards away, it's too thick and all that kind of stuff, but I can sit there and see them and video them. And then the next time I went in there, I set up closer, and guess what? They never did it again. And the acorns ran out, and I never saw them right there again. And I missed the chance because I should have set up close where I could shoot the hot sign and all I wanted to do was set up to where I could see what was going on. And that's what he was trying to say. No, you need to be the camera. Set up close
No,
and
it's
shoot the
smart.
deer. Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very
yeah,
smart way to look at it, and I
yeah.
think um I always try to take a different viewpoint in
Uh,
everything like this to try to see it more clearly, right?
yeah,
So, and like in this case, the viewpoint I look at it is like, imagine if deer were that predictable,
yeah.
we wouldn't have all these podcasts and all of these gadgets for hunting. We wouldn't, because it would be really easy to kill them,
Right, that's
right?
right.
If
That's
all
right.
you had to do was find some sign and just observe it once and then go kill the deer, if it was that easy,
Yeah,
we wouldn't need to talk strategy. We wouldn't need to, I mean, it wouldn't be what it is.
yeah. We wouldn't be
So,
jumping on here talking about how we're struggling during the season, and just thank
right. I
God we
mean,
killed one at the end of the season.
yeah, like, I mean, if it was that easy,
Yeah,
I think there wouldn't be a whole lot of space for all this in-depth conversation about hunting
yeah,
because everybody would just, I mean, this is just how you do it,
yeah. Right.
just
Yeah,
go, you put the stand up and the
yeah,
obvious spot and the deer's going to come. And
yeah,
that happens a lot of times, um, but yeah, I mean, it's to me, a lot of things with hunting, and this is what we're talking about here is a good example. It's it's really like the Occam's razor kind of thing. Like the obvious answer is probably the answer. It's really
yeah,
right in front of you a lot of times.
yeah,
And I think we overcomplicate it or we try to do more with a little bit of information can go a long way in the woods. And we oftentimes, and I'm very guilty of this, very guilty of overthinking it. And instead of just, kind of going with it or being a little bit more spontaneous. And I, th- I think I think it comes from a natural kind of evolved. I don't want to use the word fear or anxiety, but that is what it is. It's a form of it of spooking the deer.
right. Yeah,
We
correct.
know in like what's deep down inside of us, what we're in like we have in us is we're a predator,
Yeah,
and we know that our number one challenge is overcoming the prey instincts of that deer, his
yeah,
ability to survive,
yeah,
his ability to detect us far easier than we can detect him.
yeah,
Whether we think about it in those that way when we're out there hunting, I know that we don't a lot. Um, but it's a fact. It's the obvious. It is what's in front of us, and so I think a lot of times I'm guilty of this. I'm a little bit too cautious sometimes, and
yeah.
I miss
Right.
my shot. Or
Yep.
figuratively speaking, I miss my opportunity to encounter that deer or to have that really good hunt or to get that opportunity to shoot that deer because I'm being too cautious.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, instead of, hey, this deer's out here in this world 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. He uses this whole landscape in different ways. He's here all the time. He's
Right.
not on your schedule. He doesn't have to operate the way it works best for you. Sometimes you got to go after him. Sometimes you got to put yourself in. You might spook some deer in the process. You might walk away from hunts not really knowing what happened. Like I really thought I was in the right spot. I didn't see anything. I don't know. Um, but sometimes I think that little bit of just kind of instinctive anxiety that we have about scaring away our prey
Yeah.
leads us to kind of be a little bit withdrawn and a little bit too cautious. And I find myself sometimes I kind of scoff sometimes. I see people online and stuff, and they're hunting really aggressively and they're killing deer, and I'm like, good grief, these are the luckiest people in the world.
Right.
But
Right.
if I take my judgmental glasses off and go, you know what? Maybe they're onto something though.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that
I
one
mean,
sit when they found that sign, they got aggressive and boom, they killed that deer. First time
and
in, because you set up right. Instead of
it,
going
yeah,
like I did, like in that situation, I can tell you 100% what went through my mind. Don't set up too close, you'll spook him. Get just off of it, and he'll be able to come through here once he comes through. But that ain't what he did, and I missed my chance.
brother, I have had a similar line of thinking and done something very similar to that so many
Yeah.
times,
Yep.
and thought to myself, darn it, that tree right over there, I knew that was the tree.
Yep.
My just that little bit of like, but I don't need to get that close.
Yep. Yep.
I just don't need to get that close, and then
Yep.
you just second guess yourself, and I don't know. That's what keeps us coming back, right? Is
Yep.
all these things, and that's one of the greatest things about hunting is the next time you go and you make a sit, and you whether you climb in your mobile set or you go to a existing stand setup or whatever, the next time you make that hunt, regardless of the situation that you're in, it's going to be its own hunt. It's going to be unique in its own way. And
Yeah.
every one you ever make are going to be, they're all going to be different. That day, you'll never get that day again. Um, you'll never get that situation exactly like that again. And so with that being, just a reality, there's no telling what you might see.
Right.
There's no telling what you might experience or observe on any given day, because every day is a different day that
Yeah.
you go in the woods,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's another of the great things about hunting is you don't know what you're going to experience,
Yeah.
from the
Right.
crazy and wild to the unbelievable to the unbelievably frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll shut her down with this story, but I could talk all day on it. But we were in Kansas this year, just to give an example of what you're talking about. The next hunt could be it. But we were in Kansas. The weather wasn't too good. This is this year. The weather wasn't too good. Deer weren't moving. We'd hunted. I'd been there 5 days and had seen 7 deer. I mean, it just wasn't going. So one morning we were hunting, and it was just me and one other buddy, and we were texting each other back and forth. Man, I don't know where the deer are. They're just not moving. We're not even getting anything on camera, man. I mean, it's just we had 5 cameras up, and we barely getting any deer. It's ridiculous, and we're just griping about it, to each other through text. And then 5 minutes after we got through doing that, my buddy texted me and he said, "Rev, I just killed the biggest deer of my life, and I heard him crash." And he killed a 173.
Hmm.
The biggest deer we'd ever seen on our place in Kansas.
Oh
So
yeah.
you never know. The next hunt could be the hunt. You got to
Could
figure it
be.
out, and you got to go. Yep.
Yep. You never
Yep.
know.
Yep.
That's why we keep going,
That's
because you
right.
never know.
You never know. You never know.
Mhm.
Well, man, it has been a pleasure to talk with you and to meet you, man. I've enjoyed it. We will definitely have to do it again sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it as well, and
Yeah.
anytime I'd be glad to talk. I do this a lot, but
Yeah.
podcast is a lot like hunting too, right? The
Yeah,
next
that's
one's not
exactly
going to
right.
be anything like the last one.
That's
There's
right.
always something to talk about, and always something
Yeah.
new, and yeah, I've enjoyed it. Enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you want to tell anybody about Louisiana Bowhunter? Like, just you got
Yeah,
you got
just
the floor.
yeah, just I mean, you Louisiana Bowhunter is the name of the brand, and you can find us on every major platform. Our podcast is called the Louisiana Bowhunter Podcast, presented by Scree Gear, and we're on every major platform. We release a new episode every Friday morning from September through February, which just really follows the deer hunting season. Um, a couple of things, you mentioned the Hunt League. It's just too late to join the Hunt League this year, but if you check that out at louisianabowhunter.com, and we also do updates on all the social media. You can kind of see what that's all about and be looking for, to join that next year if you're interested. We do have an in-state and out-of-state. Another thing that we do is we partner with SHOT, the 3D Experience, and we host a big 3D shoot. I'm sure plenty of people are familiar with Total Archery Challenge events. This is the same kind of thing. SHOT, the 3D Experience, is a company very much like TAC, smaller and kind of up and coming. They only have like 7 or 8 events around the country a year. But one of them is partnered with Louisiana Bowhunter. We do it at Muddy Bottoms ATV Park up in Sarepta, not too far from your
Yeah.
stomping grounds
Yeah.
there. And that'll be at the end of February. It'll be a Saturday Sunday kind of deal where you can come in, and we'll have 4 or 5 3D ranges set up. We'll have some big novelty shots to win big prizes, and there'll be vendor booths. That'll be at the end of February. And that's a big Louisiana Bowhunter event. And outside of that, you can check a lot of your local retailers sell our merchandise. We have our merchandise at louisianabowhunter.com, and the last thing really about Louisiana Bowhunter that I think is really one of the things that we really want to push a lot is our Facebook community group. It's the Louisiana Bowhunter community group, and you'll have to go request access, and you'll have to answer a few questions there so we can make sure that we're keeping only legitimate people that want to talk bow hunting and stuff in there. And it's a cool community group. There's a lot of hunting stories, and there's a lot of arguing and debating about different things, but people share their pictures and their hunting videos and different things like that. And it's a cool place that really kind of encapsulates what we want the brand to be. So those are all things that you can do to kind of find out more about Louisiana Bowhunter and be involved in what Louisiana Bowhunter is doing.
Sweet, man. Well, that's good. Well, you guys go check them out. And Locke, I appreciate it, brother. And I'm going to let you go for the night, man. It's been good. We'll do it again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, brother.